Welcome everyone for a special edition of Tree Actions and our special guest, Emmy, co-founder and organizer of Spoken Loam 2025. Welcome, Emmy.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I'm. You've got a dynamic list of speakers. You've upped your game this year. Like you've got a. Not that you didn't have great speakers last year, but you've upped your game. You got people coming from far and wide. Tell us a bit about who you're going to have at the. What do you call it?
Summit, I think.
Summit
Conference,
symposium.
get together. Yeah. Rather than just a conference, sounds kind of. Well,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, there's
not.
many words for it. I suppose it's all of those things. But, yeah.
True.
Yeah. So this year, we kind of wanted to keep a local signature on it, so we still have 3 local presenters, which are going to be very interesting talks. One of them's curating a forest bathing program, which will be a lot of fun to check out. That's Caitlin Webb. We got Sasha Curran, who's doing an emerald ash borer project. Given that that's right around the corner here in Edmonton, and that's kind of an unfortunate reality. We've already got some DED here in town, so the emerald ash borer is kind of like the elephant in the room that is a lot quicker and nobody's talking about. So Sasha's doing some citizen science and some pretty interesting research on the outcomes there. And then we got an acoustic ecologist who coincidentally is someone I've done some tree work for. He's doing some research through the U of A, and he's actually got some really cool international initiatives that make sound maps for cities. Because a lot of our wildlife corridors end up being affected by road noise, right? It's actually quite astonishing how much noise, and specifically from cars, affects not just us as people, but everything, right? So his project is sort of creating a sound map for Edmonton, but I think there's a larger initiative happening internationally where we're trying to have these maps, or the scientific community is trying to have these sound maps so that we can then have a better idea of how to map our wildlife corridors and where to protect, right? Like, what's the point in having a wetland right by a highway? Because a lot of birds aren't going to want to go there. So, so those are 3 locals.
Acoustic ecology. Wow.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's kind of I don't know if you've had the chance to read a book called Crossings by Ben Goldfarb, but it kind of reminds me of a couple of the chapters in that book, and that book's about road ecology, so how roads affect us and other animals. Yeah. And then we got the 2 actually 3 out-of-towners, which are going to be someone you both know, which is Ryan Senechal.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be presenting on how we can make better workplaces and retain people and keep them happy at work, and what that sort of entails, and how well he'd probably be better to speak to that as all the presenters would be. And then I know you mentioned, Dwayne, that you've recently joined Tree Canada, the board of Tree Canada. So Adrina's going to be having a presentation as well. She's going to be opening up the festivities, as we could say. And
she's staff
at Tree Canada,
yeah.
Talented writer, and she's going to be relating trees back to storytelling and how, well, it's kind of like a surprise exactly what her story is going to be about in her presentation, but it's going to really envelope the event well, I think. And then we have Kevin Bingham, who reached out to me last, I think it was in the spring actually, because he was doing a shorter presentation on how you can use alternative transportation in tree care. Seems to be a little bit of a trend, and then I sort of reciprocated and said, well, hey, like, while we're at it, why don't you tell us what it was like to start a business during an economic crash, so to say. And that sort of inspired a lot of his presentation, which will sort of follow that notion of like how we can take a situation like that and actually make cool and good things happen. Seeing opportunity in that rather than the negatives. So it'll be interesting. Very. It's funny how these things happen. I was talking to Dustin, who be great to have him on the podcast at some point.
Yeah.
And yeah, we did our best to sort of curate a list that, like, what we want to do is same as last year, kind of bridge that gap and have arboriculture go mainstream in a way, not in a way as to diminish it and make it like a popular thing, but rather to have more people in the community partaking, not necessarily climbing trees or doing what we do for a living or anything like that, but at least understanding a little bit more about trees in a way that benefits us all. So I think it's going to be interesting for some of the presenters because they're used to presenting to other arborists, and the goal is to sort of intermingle that community with people who, some people might not even know what an arborist really is. So
How are you getting the word out to citizens? I guess you could say, like to people to non-arbs. How and what would you say are the ratio someone could expect to see?
So we're trying to be as old school as possible. We've found that's actually works best. I know as you both may experience nowadays, it's almost as if we're like drowning in content sometimes on the internet. So people might see a post and not even really have the time to acknowledge it because just due to the fact that we're always part of that, we're not always able to take that and maybe make that phone call when we see that post. So as far as getting the word out, we're not super old school, emails, things like this, more of the person to person, at least the voice to voice sort of connections, calling other local arborists, universities, and we made some posters. I don't know if you had a chance to see some of the art, but we made some posters with the art, and we've taken it to I took it to a couple bookstores and cafes in town,
Okay.
and we're gonna leave some at the U of A labs and that whole the ecology building. Have some colleagues there too. So that I'd say the ratio is it's like 50-50. And the interesting thing is people are coming and then they're like, hey, I want to be an arborist, and then they're making connections that sort of get them into the the industry, for lack of a better word. But as we all know, it is it kind of becomes a lifestyle more than a job, which is what it is. I'm not saying it's good or bad because I don't believe in that dichotomy necessarily, but I do think that it does profoundly affect the way you look at things when you do have the time to enjoy trees and work with them closely. So
Neither true nor untrue, right? Neither
exactly.
true nor untrue. You're not wrong, and I'm not right.
Yeah, I mean, both can exist simultaneously, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, how are you feeling about, it's your second one, and you got one under your belt, so to speak, and looking at it last year, and what your goal and dream for it is, how do you feel you're on track? Are you happy with the way it went, and are you excited about what's going to happen?
Yeah, we were really like we were buzzing after the last one. It was very much exactly well, we didn't have any expectations or like not to say we didn't have expectations. We didn't have any how would you say like preconceptions and like we didn't want to create an event with a goal in mind as much as just start conversations. And we left that event and a lot of people did feeling like, wow, this is like, there's uncomfortable conversations that are being had and there's nuanced conversations that are being had and all. And there's just also cool, interesting, and fun stuff. This year, uh, I feel like we had done it before. So, you get that little bit of confidence. You're like, yeah, we got this. And then maybe, a couple weeks ago, we're like, we better start promoting this. Um, so but thankfully, and thanks to the sponsors that helped us last year as well, the event went really well, and I think that we're going to have a good turnout again. Um, as far as what we want the event to eventually become is, I think this is the last year that Dustin and I will be the sole organizers. I think we've learned a lot about grassroots organization. Kind of Dustin especially is very much a grassroots, um, I guess you could say, tree advocate. So I will let him speak to that when he gets a chance to do so. But you really do get a taste for what it means. Like social media does help sometimes, but it's not the be all end all. So we're really learning, and I suppose you could say cutting our teeth on how what the footwork and the legwork that it actually takes to get people interested in an event, and how you kind of want an event to be well rounded enough so that people take something away. Um, but the whole intention is to break even and to bring interesting ideas that can make our city better, inspire the same types of events in other cities, and hopefully from there just create a stronger community, which I think we have in the prairies, but it's harder to. It seems like on the west coast everybody's a little bit like geographically closer, and that's kind of what inspired this. Like we don't have the geographic closeness perhaps that you do between like Victoria and Nanaimo and the mainland,
Hmm.
between Edmonton, Red Deer, and Calgary. And so getting our tree climbers in at first to be at a conference was kind of less feasible because there's like while arboriculture is a big thing here, tree climbing is not every arborist is a tree climber here. So yeah, that's kind of
But it doesn't. This doesn't even have a climbing focus at all, like
no,
at all.
no.
And it wasn't that part of your intention? It was I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to put it into words. Like you mentioned it earlier, connecting people, well, all people in a community with trees and the people that care for them. Like bridging that. It's a bridge. It's a bridging idea, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's a bridge. We want to, if trees are the hub, um, events like this can be the spoke. And then it was just kind of a play on words from Soak and Loam, which was Ryan's original event, and Ryan did a lot to help us. He gave us a blueprint, and blueprints help. Like
Yeah.
they give
Yeah.
you, like we always say when we're training, if you have something to aim for, it's a little easier to hit the target. And if because of that, I think it was a little easier to organize and create get the ideas that sort of got everything moving. But yeah, we do want people to get into tree climbing for sure. So there is an emphasis as far as the sponsors, and there's always a little bit of like the prizes that we give away. There's always a connection with tree climbing, because although all other forms of accessing canopies are valid, I personally believe that being in the tree and feeling how the tree moves really connects you to that whole world of reality, which is kind of what makes me love, what made me really fall in love with the industry. So that's, I guess, my signature on the event, I suppose.
Yeah, well, we got maybe we'll get Kevin to share some of his experiences with he's the inventor of one of the most revolutionary tools, I would say, that has hit the hit the ropes, so to speak, right?
Yeah, totally.
And I remember him showing us in Chicago. Tony, you were there, I think, when he was wanting to use his. It wasn't anything what it is now, but he was showing us, and we had he was off on the side secretly saying, "This is what I'd like to do in the rescue," and I think in the Masters if he made it, and he might have even been asking to use it in the work climb, I think. And we actually did it. We said, okay, we couldn't really see why he couldn't after he demonstrated it, and but unfortunately he missed a mandatory meeting after that and was unable to climb, so he didn't get to use it. But it was like you could tell it was like, wow, it was a lot of people have been dabbling in it and doing different things, but he had put a tool that potential, and then obviously it went on from there to be a lot what it is today. So it'll be interesting to. And I wonder if he'll talk a little bit about that journey. It'll be cool if he does.
Oh,
Um,
I'm almost certain he will. Yeah.
yeah, it's awesome. You mentioned the idea of it potentially going to other places. If someone was interested in, what would someone have to do? Like, I mean, franchising the concept. I mean, we all know, or maybe not everybody knows that are listening, but that Ryan Seneschal, who's speaking at this year's Spoken Loam, is the one of the founders. I don't think Ryan would take full credit for it. I know he had some people along the way with him. And I've never gotten a straight answer as to why it got named what it did. It seems to be somewhat shrouded in mystery, which I think is by design. But you adopted that model, and they embraced it and encouraged you and helped you, and now you changed the name slightly from Soak and Loam to Spoken Loam because of your passion for cycling and doing tree work on bicycles. So if someone, like, what do they do? Is it does it have loam in the name, or is it just the idea? Could it be
Yeah, great question.
is it yeah.
It definitely doesn't have to. I mean, we tried to think of something more prairie centric and we just couldn't. So we're like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. And Edmonton, to be fair, is has come a long ways in bike infrastructure. So I would almost go as far to say that it's one of the most exciting cities in North America when it comes to bike infrastructure. It's also the epicenter of a lot of conflict when it comes to that, because not everybody necessarily uses them, and until you do, you're not really a convert. Um, but if someone wants to start an event like this, it's as easy as asking for our spreadsheet is easy to share it, but it's just a spreadsheet.
Mhm.
Um, it's all about at first getting the right people and the right ideas, and start off with finding a venue, right? A venue that everybody can get to. Then you just break down the costs of what it is to bring everybody down, and then you go from there. It's not as difficult as it sounds but don't get me wrong, there are a lot of challenges. Like,
Yeah.
you could easily be out of pocket for it, but at the end of the day, it's what can you do? I think
Yeah.
it's worth it. I think we're better for it, and it's
I
kind
think
of what we need. So
people need to understand, I think, with this type of thing, and even I we running a business, like it's along the lines of training. So I think there's more similarities with what you're doing than what a tree company does selling a tree job, like the way we do training. And there has to be a passion for it, an element of love for it, a labor of love in it. Otherwise, because and it's not. You'd have to do a heck of a lot of them to make a living at it, right? And it's a lot of work. So I think you're wise in making that comment about, but it also is very rewarding, as you said, right? And you get a lot of experience that is really priceless. But at the same time, you pay for it in one way or another, right? But it really isn't something you can get any other way other than immersing yourself in something like this, organizing it, and it's a great teacher.
yeah, it's taking a risk, right? Like anything else, it's what we do for a living. Even when you're training, like you're taking a risk. You're trying to show and teach and understand someone to the point where you can, and you have to combine everything else that goes into the weather. Was teaching last week, and it was windy enough that the
Right.
manufacturer of the lift that we were using specified that the lift shouldn't be used after that wind speed. So you have all sorts of challenges, and you have like at the end of the day, a conference or anything you do is always gonna you're always putting yourself out there. Not everybody's gonna like you. Not everybody's gonna like the ideas you're putting out there. Some people are gonna think you're an idiot. You gotta be. It doesn't matter. Like you can't be worried. Just like in training, you can't be worried about looking silly. Sometimes you
Yeah. Yeah.
have to. You're putting yourself out there, right?
Well, sometimes what other people think of you is none of your business, right? um, last year you didn't talk about this as much. I'm curious. It sounds like maybe did you receive some feedback that was less than stellar? That you're speaking about that, or was it which I would expect? Wouldn't be surprised if that were to happen because people are people, right?
Not quite yet, and not to our face or that we know of. The feedback was overwhelmingly good,
Okay.
but I think eventually you will get people criticizing events like this, but it's fine. I think that's you can contextualize that in anything. Just like when we do work, you can't please everyone. Um, the goal here is to not put ourselves at the center of this event, and let the we're planting it like think of it like a garden or a forest, right?
Hmm.
If we can let it go and have it do its own thing, then that's true success, and that's the end goal. There's this year, I think will be important to have a strong sort of repetition. See if we can build on what we made last year, and if that is the case, then we'll sort of open it up and maybe get a bigger group of people organizing. And we just want to not necessarily make it a bigger event, but maybe add a workshop and make it a little bit more varied. And this year was a little bit too difficult to do that, but next year we're thinking of having like one day where it's just full on arborist workshops. Maybe that's how we can include ArborCan, and have like the Saturday or maybe the Thursday before be like an actual workshop, where we're having maybe people come out and I think that would be interesting for not just arborists but the public to see a little bit more of our day to day. Like, oh, there's a broken branch in that tree. Um, Please come get it out. And a lot of times they don't see us do it. They just show up and it's gone, and their tree feels nice and safe. And we are the only ones that get to see that, or maybe people within the industry. Or you can go on, God forbid, you can go on YouTube or social media, which can be great, but I do believe for the most part creates challenges in our industry. And if people can see those sorts of things up close and personal, I think that would go a long way as far as like having that solidarity with an industry that sees a lot of challenges. Like, we're still up there in the numbers of injuries and fatalities, and I'm very interested in some of the conversations Tony has brought up as far as nutrition goes, because I do think you know, not drinking enough water and not eating lead to a lot of accidents, and until we have the research that can prove that, you know, we won't be able to say, hey, well, a lot of the people who are lacking in this are overworked, and it's probably not going to get much easier for us, but at least we can try, right?
You know, I appreciate that. You know, you've kind of decided to take on. You mentioned earlier the elephant in the room thing when you talked about EAB and DD, but there's a lot of elephants in the arborist rooms, right? And topics that are just a little too sensitive to go into something like a like an ISA show, for example. They either the people organizing it wouldn't think of it, or they wouldn't do it because of potential ramifications, or because it doesn't appeal to a broad enough audience, right? Like, you know, and you're kind of just scratching the surface. I think if you had your druthers, you might go a lot deeper, and maybe that's where you're headed. But you know, there's always a need for that sort of thing. You know, a need for a place to talk about uh, the stuff that's hard to talk about in a place that's safe to do that, right? And that and then also things that nobody thinks of, or that are really fringe. You know, ironically, that where the event is, but that
Yeah,
that are just thought expanding ideas. You know, things to provoke thought and provoke change, even. You know, like doing tree work off a bicycle in Edmonton. Like that's not mainstream, right?
yeah, and it's one of those things that is kind of silly some days, and I think, like, why am I doing this? Should have not chosen the bike today.
But you have a balance too. Like,
Yeah, totally.
you're not a zealot where you're gonna die with frozen fingers to the handlebars. You know, like I'm uh,
No.
I'm committed. You know, like you realize, okay, sometimes I got to get the truck and get the chipper out here. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's a tool. It's just another tool.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite tools, the Arbor trolley, just a tool, but can't save the world. Like, just an example, right?
Yeah.
And as far as different ideas and the uncomfortable conversations, it's a lot like um, independent radio. You know, every city, every town, and when we're training and we get the chance to travel, I always try to find where the independent radio is, because independent radio and our local independent radio here is CJSR, and they've promoted us in the past too as far as an event goes. They're not, like, unfortunately, most radio stations are corporate radio stations, and they are owned by a select few companies, and so independent radio, independent events like this, we have the freedom to talk about whatever we want. We have to be careful because we also don't want to jam pack an event with misinformation and crazy stuff, because, well, you know, that's not great. But I think, like, I'm not a journalist. I'm nothing special. I just took inspiration from other people and tried to create an independent event with Dustin. And Dustin does, I'd say, the lion's share of the work with the website and everything. And me being that ADHD guy who can just roll ideas off of his tongue, having someone like him who's a task finisher is great. But yeah, we strongly encourage people to create these independent events, but it's also important to not silo yourself into an echo chamber, and that's
Hmm.
part of this as well.
Yeah.
We did have some people ask why we didn't only go with local presenters, and part of the answer was, well, there are people outside of where we live who have seen challenges that we're going to see soon, and if they can teach us anything about that, then that's amazing. And
And you guys, I don't remember if you guys did a virtual, like you didn't, it wasn't broadcasted like live, like where people could log in from remote to watch it take place, or do you record it, or is there any way for people that can't make it there to get it?
yeah, we're gonna record it this time around,
Okay,
and then we'll post it.
awesome.
Which I think there, like, the event has, the venue has, because of when the pandemic was happening, they they wanted to continue doing the Fringe Festival.
Yeah.
I think they have some pretty good recording capabilities of, like, all that. So there's an additional cost for us to do that, but we're gonna do it. Like, we're gonna decide closer to the date of the event whether we can afford it or not, depending on how much it's going to cost us. But that's the goal, to be able to, at least, even if we can't record the talks, have some sort of database where a lot of the information at least can be looked at and kind of continue engagement. Like, next year, what we're thinking of doing is bringing back some of the presenters from the first year, and then maybe having, like, sort of like revolving, um, not a revolving door necessarily, but I don't know what analogy you could use. But continuing engagement with the people that did present, as well as always new ideas. But yeah, we do want to record it as well.
Cool. So where people got to go? How do they get there?
So it's the same location as last year. If you live in Edmonton, I would recommend taking the train if you can to get there, because parking is going to be silly,
Yeah.
and the hockey game is going to be on after. So, well, hopefully we don't need to go to Game 7. Knock on wood. But if we do, I think what we're gonna try to do is organize a watch party, maybe right then and there at the same venue, um, and we'll have to see how that works out. If not, um, we'll have to figure that out closer to the date. But it's hockey. It's gonna be a hockey game night, so it's just really crazy anywhere in the center core of Edmonton when there's a
Yeah.
hockey game, and given that we're in the final again this year. So yeah, Old Strathcona, right across the street from the Farmers Market, Edmonton, Fringe Backstage Theater. If you're coming into town, the Varscona Hotel, we should be able to post up I think we get a discount from them. And it's within walking distance if you're coming from out of town. And if not, if you're in town, then, well, you know where it is. So
Would you know the address? It's not White Ave, right? Or is it?
I can check right now.
And I think I might uh, bring a motorcycle again, but
Oh yeah, I
no
wanted to
key.
share
But
that story.
but no key. Yeah, last year my motorcycle got walked off with, but I'd left my key right beside the entrance, and it was fine all day until the last talk. And somebody decided to, I guess they must have been trying to steal it, but anyway, they just took the key, which turned into quite a difficult pain in the butt when you don't have a key for a
Yeah,
motorcycle. But it
we
all worked
still
out in
don't
the end.
know. we still don't know if the motorcycle actually came to life. And
Well, I don't think they started it because I think we would heard it. It's pretty. It's loud enough, but it was interesting. Interesting. But I could park in the same spot. So if you have a motorcycle, parking is a little easier.
yeah, or a bicycle.
Yeah, yeah.
We
Well, I
we
don't
did
think I'm
want
going
to
to make it on
organize a
bicycle from Olds.
yeah, it'd be a bit far. So it's 103rd Street and 84th Ave.
There you go.
We'll have signs and stuff, and we'll have all that sort of stuff.
And all the out of towners are staying at the Varscona. So that's where that's the hotel.
That's the hotel. It's like a block and a half away. If you want to rent a bike, Red Bike can sort you out. They have quite a few bikes to choose from, and they are right in Garneau as well. And if you are an out of towner, there's lots of other stuff to check out while you're here. But
And that is July
June
or sorry,
20th.
June 20
June 20th.
June 20th.
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah, 9-ish to 5-ish.
Yeah, right. And last year I had a
Good
great
coffee
lunch.
too.
Good venue. Yes. It's a neat little spot. So and tickets are still available?
Tickets are still available. We had a big purchase come in today from a municipality, which cannot be named, but just because, I don't know. But yeah, tickets are still available. I think so. The first 50 tickets get T-shirt, but I think that ship has sailed. But then the first 75 people who show up, depending on our sponsorship contributions, we might be able to cover more T-shirts. But it'll be like when you show up,
right.
And then after that, we're gonna possibly have a silent auction to cover some of the costs if we don't sell out. Last year we didn't think we were gonna sell out, and then the day of we sold I think 40 tickets or something. So
that's how it usually goes. Yeah.
Usually how it goes. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, that's Spoken Loam in Edmonton on June 20th with a star-studded cast of speakers. And we've been listening to Emmy Weckworth talk to us, who's a co-organizer of Spoken Loam in its second season. And I was fortunate enough to attend last year, and it's well worth the trip. And you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.